Hey everyone, it's Ashley and I'm back with a Dollar Tree decor tutorial. So as you guys know, I hauled some of these different items in my last haul and I created this floral arrangement. I posted about it on Facebook and several of you asked for tutorials. So I recreated this using some different flowers from the Dollar Tree. This one cost me right around the $10 mark and I used these types of flowers for it, but made a very simple one-sided arrangement. And in my tutorial I used a few different flowers here, but I came up with a very similar type of arrangement. They both use the same principle, so I'm just going to show you how to do this and then you guys can alter it to fit whatever type of flowers that you prefer. So I hope you enjoy. So here are the supplies that you will need if you are choosing to make a floral arrangement, and all of these supplies come from the Dollar Tree and they cost approximately $10 to $11 depending on how full you want to make the arrangement. So the first thing that you're going to need is a planter, and these are just the oblong kind of planters, very handy to make floral arrangements with. So got this one. You're also going to need a block of floral foam, and this is just the dry foam. You will also need some Spanish moss. If you are making a one-sided arrangement, you'll have the other side with some empty space on the back. So this is great to kind of hide that and make it look more attractive from the back side. And you will also need 3 sprays, which is the individual pieces here, of kind of a larger flower. You're going to want to pick kind of, this is your main piece for the actual arrangement. So you're going to want to pick something that's kind of a full bright color. So I picked 3 of these, and these are peonies. And the next pieces that you will need is actually these lilacs, and I picked 3 different ones as well. And these are basically going to be the filler for most of your floral arrangement. And for your accent one, I'm using the hyacinths, but I'm only using 2 here. And these are just going to be kind of like a little addition to add a little pop of color, but they aren't going to take up the most of the space. These just add a little bit of height and a little bit of extra drama to your arrangement. So the next things that you're going to need is actually a butter knife and a pair of scissors. You will need the butter knife so that you can trim down the floral foam to fit inside your container. And then you're also going to need the scissors so that you can trim each of these pieces, and you're going to want to trim it along the bottom. Just make a little cut in there, and then you can bend the wire back and forth to separate each piece here. And you're going to want to leave the greenery on as well for the floral arrangement because it helps it to look fuller and thicker. So the first step is actually unboxing your floral foam here, and then you're going to want to take it and kind of eyeball it to the size that you need it to be. And you can tell that it's almost perfect. All you need to do is shave down the corners just a little bit. So this is very messy, just a warning. But what I'm going to go ahead and do is take the corners and I'm just going to use the butter knife and cut them down. And I'm just going to continue this around each corner. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to fit it into the container. And then once you have it fit inside the container, it's perfect to go ahead and get started. This will be the base for all of your flowers, and you just want to clean up as you go along. So the next step is actually to clip the greenery. So you're going to want to make sure that the leaves are up further out of the way. So what you're going to do is kind of bend this a little bit, and then you can clip them. You just want to cut the plastic covering just a little bit. And then you can bend these back and forth, and they pop right off. You can also go ahead and adjust them later after when you're ready to arrange them, but it's better to cut them longer and cut them shorter later if you need to. So once you have all of your flowers cut and separated into groups, you're ready to start the next part, which is pretty much starting to create the arrangement. Because we are making a one-sided type of arrangement, this amount of flowers will be sufficient, and that's pretty much the finished product that you would get. However, if you wanted to create a double-sided arrangement, you would just continue to follow these instructions with another batch of the same amount of flowers, and you would do it on the second side. So this is the back end of it, and this is actually the front. A lot of people don't realize that flower arranging is as much about math as it is about art as well, because you start out with basically a standard type of shape and you work from there artistically to create something that's beautiful. So I'm going to show you the basic shape first, and then I'll show you how I fill it in to make it look more pleasing to the eye. So to create this floral arrangement, the basic shape that you're going to look for is, if this was turned over on its side, you're trying to create a triangle. So what you're going to do is arrange the flowers in such a way that you create the basic format for your actual floral arrangement. So what I'm going to do is actually take my accent flowers and I'm going to arrange those first. And what I'm going to do is create the basis for the triangle with that. So I'm going to take one of the stems and go ahead and insert it straight in the middle here. And I'm not going to push it down very far. I actually want this to be quite a tall arrangement. So you put it in the middle and you just put one straight up. And your next bit is actually going to be taking some of these stems. You're going to put one in the side from an angle here so that you create kind of this side floral arrangement. And you do want it to stick out pretty far because it actually will fill in and look more natural. And then you will repeat the process on the other side. So it looks kind of crazy, but that's basically the shape that you're trying to create. You're trying to create this triangle to start with. And the next step is actually taking a few more of these and you're going to fill in around it. So you're also going to give it a little bit more shape, but you're going to bring this one down just slightly so it starts forming downwards. You take another one and you do the same thing. And as you can see, you have the start for that little tiny pyramid. So after you have your foundation laid, you're going to take your focus flowers, which are the larger flowers that you picked, and you're going to start arranging them right along the front and also along towards this line here. You might extend out a little bit, but generally speaking, you're trying to use this section and forward the most. So I'm just going to take the flowers that I think are the most beautiful and I'm going to try to put those towards the front because you are going to see those immediately. And don't worry if you have to put some down in this section as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put this right in here. And if they're off-centered a little bit, that's all right because you're going to have a lot of flowers to fill in the gaps as well. So as you can see, I'm kind of creating a line here that follows in front of these focal pieces. But what you're going to want to do is vary the height as well. Some of these will be placed in a little bit lower, some a little bit higher. It just adds some visual interest. And the next step is actually taking some of these focus flowers and filling in the front section as well. So something that you're going to notice is once you've created this, it still looks pretty funky. You have the crazy shape here, and then you look like you have two rows, but that is completely normal because you're just filling it in. So what you're going to do is also take some of your flowers and you're going to try to stagger them in here so that some will come forward a little bit more, some will go backwards, so you fill in the gaps and it looks more natural. And the nice thing about floral foam is that you can move these forward or back just depending on what looks better to you. And don't forget while you're working on this to actually pull the leaves forward a little bit. If they sink down too low, it'll start looking really sparse. So it's better to pull up the leaves a bit and give yourself a little bit of extra foliage. And then because I noticed that there is kind of a gap towards the back here, I'm going to go ahead and add in something there a little bit taller than the rest of them. I'm going to barely place this in here so that it's got an extra bit of height. So as you can tell, the floral arrangement is definitely still lacking. It looks very, very round here and it doesn't have, enough interest in it. So what we're going to do is take some of the accent flowers here that we picked up and we're going to use this to help strengthen the kind of triangle that we were creating and also soften up the features so that it's more interesting. So what I'm going to do, these are basically filler flowers, and I'm going to take these and put them along the back here, right at the center as well, and I'm barely going to push this down, just enough to actually make it stick, but we want it to be very tall. This is actually going to be taller than our basic flowers that we started with. The next step is actually to create the rest of the triangle along the sides. So what we're going to do is take these, and I can show you from the back as well to make it a little bit clearer. You can see there's kind of a delineation there. And what you're going to do is place these along the back in such a way that you're filling in these kind of gaps and also still maintaining that kind of triangle shape. So I'm placing that there, and I'm going to go ahead and continue also moving these up along here so that it actually adds into that same triangle shape that we're trying to create. Now that we've created kind of the basic shape, the next step is actually the more artistic part, where we actually take some of the leftover accent flowers and we're going to fill it in and make it look a little bit more full and more interesting. So I'm going to take these ones that formed the basis of our triangle, and I'm going to also continue them along the back side as well. Also, what I'm going to do is take these white filler flowers after I've added a few to the back, and I'm just going to go ahead and add these along inside the front and try to create a little bit of interest and movement. So I'm going to take these at an angle and slide them straight into the front here and kind of have them so that they jut forward just a little bit. And I'm also going to kind of continue that shape. Just to add a little bit of interest, I'm going to go ahead and put one of the purple flowers here. And you're just trying to fill in the gaps in between so it still has some interest along there. The next step I'm going to do is take some of these filler flowers, and I'm just going to go ahead and kind of create a little bit of interest in the middle of all of our focus flowers. So where we see large clumps of flowers, you're going to want to stick some of the accent flowers in there to just add a little bit of dimension to it. And make sure you continue to bring the foliage up as well. And it's better when you're doing these to have the flowers come forward a little bit on the accent flowers. Also, along the top here, it's always a good idea to add as much height as you can, because that's going to be a lot of the centerpiece of your actual arrangement. So you can add in a few extra pieces just with some extra height to add into that kind of triangle point. As you can see here, there's kind of an empty space here where there is no accent flowers. So definitely whenever you see kind of the empty spots there, you're going to want to take an accent flower and add that in there. And remember to pull the leaves forward a little bit too. As you can tell, there's still kind of some very strong delineation here, and it doesn't look very natural. So the next step that we're going to do is try to soften this up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is take some of the extra flowers, and I'm just going to add them in varying places along the front to kind of soften it up a little bit. So I am down to 3 stems, and when you're down to a few, just evaluate your arrangement and see where the holes and the gaps are, and definitely go with that. So in this one, I can tell that I still need some softening around the edges, and so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I have all the flowers added to this arrangement here, and the next step is actually the most artistic step, and what you're going to do is kind of bring the flowers forward or backwards as needed to kind of soften it up and make it look more natural. So as you can tell, there are some areas where, you know, the leaves stick out quite a bit with the flowers, and you want to soften it, you want to hide it a little bit. It doesn't need to be very obvious stems. So what I'm going to do with this one is kind of push it in a little bit and just kind of soften it up, and you can see how it looks more natural after that. And also, this is why I mentioned to bring the leaves forward. You actually really want to have the leaves sticking out if you can throughout the bouquet, but especially on the sides and the top, because it just adds a little bit extra dimension to it. So I'm just going to go ahead and fuss with this for a little bit and see if I can, you know, just soften it up a little bit, and I'll show you guys what I'm doing. It's always a good idea to kind of fluff the arrangement a little bit here too, so that it looks, you know, softer and more natural as well. And in this arrangement, as you can see, this was too far down like this, and as you can see, it kind of created a gap. So sometimes you can pull the flowers up just a little bit, and it softens it and it hides it just a little bit more. So after you have the flower arrangement created, the next step is actually to turn it around, since we did a single facing on this one. And as you can see, you kind of have an ugly back there, and you don't want that. So I'm going to take Spanish moss here, and you can use any kind of backing that you prefer. You could do kind of gravel stones or different kinds of moss, basically anything that covers up the back end here. And this is quite messy, so what you're going to want to do is just kind of layer it around the back so that you hide all the stems and the floral foam. As you can see, after you've finished arranging this and adding the moss to it, it just looks nice from the back, and from the front, even better. And here are some of my specialized tips for when you create a floral arrangement. If you're at the store and you're stumped for what to do as far as flowers, just remember you want to start with a larger flower, a small accent flower, and then also a medium-sized flower doesn't hurt, or some tall stems. I would definitely recommend tall stems as well. You can pick complementary colors that work well together by checking the color wheel, or you can also pick contrasting colors if you want kind of a dramatic type of floral arrangement, such as, you know, red and white and those type of colors. So I hope this tutorial helped you guys to understand how to build your own floral arrangements from items from the Dollar Tree. And if you guys like this tutorial, please like and subscribe. And if you have any suggestions for future tutorials that you would like to see, feel free to leave a comment down below, and I will see you guys later. Bye!